Hello friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy. I'm an ordained minister. We're in Bible study. We're in the NIF. We are wrapping up a chapter of the Bible. It's the fourth book of the Bible. Well, it's the fourth book of the Bible, but it's also, there's only 5 books in the Bible that are from the Torah. So we only have one more after this. It's not a particularly long one. We also are going to see 2 different things in this chapter. We are going to, one, be able to get to a certain point and go, well, suppose this happens, and you're right when we call that this. And then we'll continue, and we'll talk a little bit about science. So, the inheritance of Zephalaphad's daughters. The family heads of clan of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, who were from the clans and the descendants of Joseph, came and spoke to Moses and the leaders, the heads of the Israelite families. They said, when the Lord commands my Lord to give the land, when the Lord commanded my Lord to give the land as an inheritance to the Israelites by lot, he ordered you to give our brother Zephalaphad to his daughters. Now suppose they marry men from other Israelite tribes, and then their inheritance will be taken from our ancestral inheritance and added to that of the tribe they marry into. So that part of the inheritance allotted to us would be taken away from us. Yes, that would be true. A majority of the world's wars that go on between England and France, that would be way far in the future for this, or, from a lot of other European countries, quite frankly, is because the European, princesses and princes often only married from another country, another person who was a prince or a princess, because they couldn't marry their own siblings, so they went and married people over there. And if you do that often enough, what does that mean? It means every time, if it's a grandfather who dies, every one of those grandsons, regardless of what country they were raised in, now has a legitimate claim to that throne. Yeah, they're right. And it leads to a lot of war in Europe later on. When the year of Jubilee for the Israelite comes, their inheritance will be added to that of the tribe into which they marry, and their property will be taken from their tribal inheritance of our forefathers. Then, at the Lord's command, Moses gave this order to the Israelites. What the tribe of the descendants of Joseph is saying is right. This is what the Lord commands for Zephalaphad's daughters. They may marry anyone they please as long as they marry within the tribal clan of their father. No inheritance in Israel is to pass from tribe to tribe. For every Israelite shall keep the tribal land inherited from his forefathers. Every daughter who inherits land in any Israelite tribe must marry someone in her father's tribal clan, so that every Israelite will possess the inheritance from his fathers. No inheritance may pass from tribe to tribe, for each Israelite tribe is to keep the land it inherits. So Zephalaphad's daughters did as the Lord commanded Moses. Zephalaphad's daughters, Mahlah, M-A-H-L-A-H, Tirzah, T-I-R-Z-A-H, Hoglah, H-O-G-L-A-H, Milcah, M-I-L-C-A-H, and Noah, married their cousins on their father's side. They married within the clans of the descendants of Manasseh, son of Joseph, and their inheritance remained in their father's clan. These are the commands and regulations the Lord gave through Moses to the Israelites from the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from the Jericho. So, here's the thing. If you engage in this behavior, as also eventually became true amongst all the royal families, because I understand why they might want to keep the land within the possession, but also what they just did is make this closed loop system. And this is why you can tell the Jewish genome, like the Israeli, because at this point they're Israeli, but Jewish because after dysphoria they only let them come back to one area, and eventually they become two different kingdoms. We'll get into that. That's coming. So stay with me through the rest of the year. We'll get to there. The genome, because it's only intermarrying within its own stuff, eventually, no matter how many people there are, even with 1 million people, eventually you're going to cycle through all those people, and that would be with intermarrying within tribes. And now they're not intermarrying within tribes. So now it's even smaller. And just as happened in England and Scotland and Ireland and a bunch of other places, when you can only marry people who are close to you, you eventually are related to everybody you could potentially marry. And that's not even good. That's not even gone. There's like an entire small town in Canada that if I were looking for a husband, I could not go there, because when we have a family reunion, the town shuts down. It's just not a very particularly big town, is all. So, you can get to that quickly, depending upon whether or not they were a big tribe or a small tribe. But it is part of what makes the Jewish genome distinguishable from the rest of the Middle Eastern genomes, because it had a lack of intermarrying. Because right now, yeah, it might just be this one family. But for how long? For how long? For how long? Because it means any woman in their tribe whose father leaves her any kind of property can't marry outside of her own family. And then eventually, it's what makes it distinguishable from that of, say, Syrian DNA, or more appropriately, Iraqi DNA, or Turkish DNA, because Abraham was Mesopotamian. We like to think of that as like, oh, Mesopotamian, they took over the Egyptians, that's Alexander the Great, they're Greek. Mesopotamia, old-timey word for Iraq, Turkey, was once one country. Mesopotamian, that they say where the red hair comes from in the first place for the in the Greek, or actually we're using Cleopatra, and it has red hair, was because she was Mesopotamian. That's Middle Eastern. We don't tend to think of it that way, but if you were to go look at it on a map in with your modern day brain, you'd be going, that's the Middle East. Yeah, it is. So, this is what makes their genome distinguishable from others in the area, because they weren't intermarrying across border lands all that much either. So they could tell even one tribe from another tribe. Until the next video, friends. Hello, friends. Welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name is Amy. I'm an ordained minister, and we're in Bible study. We are starting a brand new book of the Bible today, Deuteronomy. Now, we are going to do all of chapter 1, which is a little lengthy. So, we're going to jump in. Now, you also will find it might sound like a repeat of information. And then part of you might be going, why is it a repeat of information? Because at one point, documents were lost and things were rewritten. And when things were rewritten, some of it was from memory, and some of it is you get to see an update on some of those laws. So it's sort of like the Torah after trying to live it. Because this was the Torah as it was written by Moses, and this becomes the beginning of the Torah, like, after they tried to live it, which is an entirely different set of things. Because every culture anywhere, when they make a law, it's reactionary, right? Somebody did something stupid, and you're like, I didn't know we needed a law for that, so now there will be, right? And that's every culture, every, that has human beings in it since BC era. So, the command to leave Horeb. These are the words Moses spoke to all Israel in the desert east of the Jordan. That is in the Arabah, Arabah, opposite of Suf, between Paran and Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dizahab. So, Suf, S-U-P-H, Paran, P-A-R-A-N, Tophel, T-O-P-H-E-L, Laban, L-A-B-A-N, and Hazeroth, H-A-Z-E-R-O-T-H, and Dizahab, D-I-Z-A-H-A-B. It takes 11 days to go from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea by the Mount Seir road. Mount Seir, S-E-I-R. And then Kadesh Barnea. We've talked about that one before in the previous stint. K-A-D-E-S-H-B-A-R-N-E-A. In the 40th year, on the first day of the 11th month, Moses proclaimed to the Israelites all that the Lord had commanded him concerning them. This was after the defeat of the Sihon king, S-H-I-O-N, of the Amorites, the defeat of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, and Edrei, E-D-R-E-I, had defeated Og, king of Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth. I find that very interesting. I've got another book who identifies that name right there as a name of a specific demon, actually. So, interesting. East of the Jordan, in the territory of Moab, Moses began to expound this law, saying, "The Lord our God said to us in Horeb, 'You have stayed long enough at this mountain. Break camp and advance into the hill country of the Amorites. Go to all the neighboring peoples in the Arabah, and in the mountains, in the western foothills, in the Negev, and along the coast, to the land of Canaanites, and to Lebanon, as far as the great river, the Euphrates. See, I have given you this land. Go in and take possession of the land that the Lord swore to give you to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and to their descendants after them.'" The appointment of leaders. "At the time I said to you, 'You are too heavy a burden for me to carry alone,' the Lord your God has increased your numbers, so that today you are as many as the stars in the sky." Because we're like millions of people. I mean, they hadn't, remember the marching at this point, because we just went over that. The standing armies got over 600,000 people in it. And then there's the wives and the children and the people too old, too young, right? And then the wives that are all in there. Wives, mothers, there's somebody's wife. At that, or at least somebody's daughter, or, because in this culture at that time, that's the way their brain worked. So, so verse 11. "May the Lord, the God of your father, increase you 1,000 times and bless you as he promised. But how can I bear your problems and your burdens and your disputes all by myself? Choose some wise, understanding, and respected men from each of your tribes, and I will set them over you." You answered me, "What you propose to do is good." So I took the leading men of your tribes, wise and respected men, and appointed them to have authority over you as commanders of thousands, of hundreds, of fifties, and tens, and as tribal officials. And I charged your judges at the time, hear the disputes between your brothers and judge fairly, whether the case is between brother Israelites and between one of them and an alien. Do not show partiality in judging. You're both small and great alike. Do not be afraid of any man, for judgment belongs to God. Bring me any case too hard for you, and I will hear it. And at that time, I told you everything that you were to do. Okay. Spies sent out. Then, as the Lord our God commanded us, we set out from Horeb and went towards the hill country of the Amorites through all that vast and dreadful desert that you have seen. Okay, sorry about that. Verse 19, spies sent out. Then, as the Lord our God commanded us, we set out from Horeb and went towards the hill country of the Amorites through all that vast and dreadful desert that you have seen. And so we reached Kadesh Barnea. Then I said to you, you have reached the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God is giving us. See, the Lord your God has given you the land. Go up and take possession of it, as the Lord, the God of your father, told you. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. Then all of you came to me and said, let us send men ahead to spy out the land for us and bring back the report and report the route we are to take and the towns we've come to. Now notice how that's different. In the previous book, in the book of Numbers, Moses sends them out. In this one, they come to Moses and say, don't just send us into war, send out people. The idea seemed good to me, so I selected 12 of you, one man from each tribe. They left and went up into the hill country and came to the valley of Eshcol and explored it. Taking with them some fruit of the land, they brought it down to us and reported, it is good land that the Lord our God is giving us. Eshcol, by the way, has to do with it because it was a cluster of grapes. That's like kind of like sort of where the name Eshcol comes from, the root of Hebrew terms, the Hebrew terminology for like a cluster of grapes, at least. Rebellion against the Lord. I'm not versed in Hebrew, so somebody else could probably tell you where the root of that is better. But you were unwilling to go up. You rebelled against the Lord your God. You grumbled in your tents and said, the Lord hates us. So he brought us out of Egypt to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us. Where can we go? Our brothers have made us lose heart, they say. The people are stronger and taller than we are. The cities are large, with walled up to the sky. We even saw Anakites there. So for Anakites, and it says Anakites instead of, the Nephilim. Okay, and also, the people are like giants. So I'm going to, some little bit of relativity for you when it comes to that. I'm not exactly a towering person myself. I come in at a, peek out at 5 foot 4.5 inches. And, if you put me next to somebody who's well over 6 foot, I'm talking like 6'5". I had this one coworker once where he was like 6'7". Was what he said his height was, somewhere around that way. And if I got a picture of me standing next to him, I can't share it because I don't have his permission to share his face or anything. But I look like I could be 12 years old standing next to this guy. Now, he's from his stock. He's American, but his genetics, very, very Norwegian. I bring it to that because, the height difference was ridiculous. It was like as if the person was a full, like if he was sitting next to me, he'd be a full shoulder and head, like above what you can see. His head would be up here somewhere in the background if he were standing there or sitting next to me even, because I'm sitting, so he'd have to be sitting next to me to have it be a fair comparison. But it's a huge difference. And I say that because the average height of the Jewish male during this time period is 5'5" high. So yeah, it wouldn't take a very big peoples for them to feel like maybe they were overwhelmed. Because you can give me all the swords and the armor you want if you're giving the same person who's much bigger than me the same thing. So I got to figure out how to get clever if I'm going to win that fight. Okay? Or you got to have a lot of faith. Especially if they're going to make up stories because the Nephilim, the Anunnaki, are supposed to be like, 10 foot tall. Like giants. Like how we think of as giants in our science fiction movies these days. Then I said to you, do not be terrified. Do not be afraid of them. The Lord your God, who is going before you, will fight for you, just as he did for you in Egypt before your eyes and in the desert. There you saw how the Lord your God carried you as a father carries his son all the way you went until you reached this place. I mean, he was on call as a cloud or a ball of fire to guide them straight through the desert so they didn't die. So, I mean, come on. I don't know what's up with that. In spite of this, you did not trust the Lord your God, who went ahead of you on your journey in fire by night and in cloud by day to search out for places for you to camp and to show you the way you should go. When the Lord heard what you said, he was angry and solemnly swore, not a man of this evil generation shall see the good land I swore to give your forefathers, except Caleb, son of Jephunneh, Jephunneh. He will see it, and I will give him and his descendants the land he set his feet on, because he followed the Lord wholeheartedly. Now, and also, okay, here we go. Because the Lord became very angry with me also and said, you shall not enter it either, but your assistant, Joshua, son of Nun, will enter it. Because that's what I said. There's two. Because one of them is Moses' his, assistant, is, his replacement. Encourage him, because he will lead Israel to inherit it. And the little ones that you said would be taken captive, your children, who do not yet know good from bad, they will enter the land. I will give it to them, and they will take possession of it. But as for you, turn around and set out towards the desert along the route to the Red Sea. That is the Sea of Reeds. Like, oh, you want to go back to Egypt, do you? We can turn this car around. Then you replied, we have sinned against the Lord. We will go up and fight as the Lord our God commanded us. So every one of you put out his weapons, thinking it was easy to go up into the hill country. But the Lord said to me, tell them, do not go up and fight, because I will not be with you. You will be defeated by your enemies. So I told you, but you would not listen. You rebelled against the Lord's command, and in your arrogance you marched up into the hill country. The Amorites who lived in those hills came out against you. They chased you like a swarm of bees and beat you down from Seir all the way to Hormah. You came back and wept before the Lord, but he paid no attention to your weeping and turned a deaf ear to you, and you stayed in Kadesh many days, all the time you spent there. So, that's the end of the first chapter of the fourth book of the Torah that is sitting in our Old Testament of the Bible. Till the next video, friends. Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. We are in Bible study. We are in the Niv. We are in chapter 5 of Luke. We are going to do verses 1 through 26 in this video, and then we will do in a separate video 27 through, it's just going to take us to the end, through 39. And what else was there? Oh, and there's going to be one more video later in the book of Revelations. Yes, we are in the Niv. And we will be, through next year. So, let's get started. The calling of the first disciples. Chapter 5, verse 1. One day as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, I might have pronounced that wrong, Gennesaret, that is in the Sea of Galilee. Okay? With the people crowding around him and listening to the word of God, he saw at the water's edge 2 boats, left there by fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats that belonged to Simon and asked him to put it forth a little from the shore. Then he sat down and taught people from the boat. They're too close. I get like that too. I need a certain measurement away from me so I can understand why Jesus would be like that. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down," see, a Greek verb is plural, the nets for a catch. Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. That's amazing. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come help them, and they began to filled the boat so full they began to sink. So when Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man." For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of the fish they had taken. And so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on you will catch men." So they pulled their boats up ashore and left everything and followed him. So proving that you could do something amazing. That's pretty. Okay. The man with leprosy, chapter 5, verse 12. While Jesus was in one of the towns, a man came along who was covered with leprosy, or, Greek for any skin condition, which for the Jewish people, that's a big deal. That's a state of unclean skin conditions. When he saw Jesus, he fell with his face to the ground and begged him, "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean." That's true. Isn't that where we're all really begging? And immediately the leprosy left him. Then Jesus ordered him, "Don't tell anyone, but go show yourself to the priests and offer your sacrifice, the sacrifices that Moses commanded for your cleansing, as a testimony to them." Still honor your ancestors. Yet the news about him spread all the more. So the crowds came to hear him, and he healed their sicknesses. But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Yeah. Again, I do that. Jesus hears a paralytic. One day, as he was teaching, Pharisees and the teachers of the law, who had come from every village of Galilee and from Judea and Jerusalem, were sitting there. And the power of the Lord was present for him to heal the sick. Some men carrying a paralytic on a mat tried to take him into the house and to lay him before Jesus. When they could not find a way to do this because of the crowds, they couldn't make their way through the crowd. They went up on the roof and lowered him on his mat through the tiles into the middle of the crowd right in front of Jesus. So the roofs were made different then, so they could have just pulled things off, lowered them down, and then put the things back on, and because it wasn't like what we do where that's such an ordeal. Like for us, you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you're talking about a 10-day exercise or minimally a certain number of days to cut the hole, to take the stuff off, to patch it and put it all." I'm like, not for them. These are time frames when people were mostly even still had thatch roofs where they actually had to go up there and remove their pitch roof and put something back on it. Okay. This is not at all the same thing. But that's pretty a feat. You put it down right in front of him. Verse 20. When Jesus saw their faith, he said, "Friend, your sins are forgiven." The Pharisees and the teachers of the law began thinking to themselves, "Who is this fellow who speaks blasphemy?
Who can forgive sins but God alone? Jesus knew what they were thinking and asked, why are you thinking these things in your hearts? Which is easier to say, your sins are forgiven, or to say, get up and walk? But that you may know the Son of Man has the authority on earth to forgive sins. He said to the paralyzed men, I tell you, get up, take your mat and go home. Their mats are really their beds. Immediately he stood up in front of them, took what he had been lying on, and went home praising God. Everyone was amazed and gave praise to God, and they were filled with awe and said, we have seen remarkable things today. And I'd have to imagine that's true. I can't imagine how it would feel if I saw, Jesus at any one given day, let alone somebody actually doing that kind of healing, especially for somebody that I would know legitimately was injured in this way, like really paralyzed. Because this is, if he's in that town, people likely know this person to have been paralyzed their whole life or something. Because there is a disease, a genetic disease called Tay-Sachs, and it can cause paralyzation, and it does hit at birth. And it is one of those things that Jewish people are genetically predisposed to.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name's Amy, and I'm an ordained minister. And we're in Bible study. We are in the Niv. We are in Psalms, Book 2, Psalm 66. It is for the director of music, a song, a psalm. Shout with joy to God, all the earth. Sing the glory of his name. Make his praise glorious. Say to God, how awesome are your deeds. So great is your power that your enemies cringe before you. All the earth bows down to you. They sing praises to you. They sing praises to your name. Selah. Come and see what God has done. How awesome his works in man's behalf. Ooh. He turned the sea into dry land. They passed through the waters on foot. Come, let us rejoice in him. He rules forever by his power. His eyes watch over the nations. I wonder what he's thinking right now. Let not the rebellious rise against him. Selah. Praise our God, O peoples. Let the sound of his praise be heard. He has preserved our lives and kept our feet from slipping. For you, O God, tested us. You refined us like silver. You brought us into prison and laid burdens on our backs. You let men ride over our heads. We went through fire and water, but you brought us to a place of abundance. I will come to your temple with burnt offerings and fulfill my vows to you. Vows my lips promised and my mouth spoke when I was in trouble. I will sacrifice fat animals to you, and an offering of rams. I will offer bulls and goats. Selah. Come and listen, all you who fear God. Let me tell you what he has done for me. I cried out to him with my mouth. His praise was on my tongue. If I had cherished sin in my heart, the Lord would not have listened. But God has surely listened and heard my voice in prayer. Praise be to God, who has not rejected my prayer or withheld his love from me. Ooh, yes, God's grace is a beautiful thing.